Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined, of course, by the one and only Michael Cohen. Cohen, I thought by now we would be able to tell everybody about the verdict in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, but Justice Engoron has not yet made a ruling. Sources say that it's been moved back by 1 week. I just want to start by talking about that because I actually think that's very bad news for Donald Trump. And a lot of people who are reaching out and saying, Midas touch, Ben, you told me, you and Michael Cohen said that this verdict was going to happen before February. Well, Justice Engoron told us.
Ben, in all fairness, it's not you nor I. We were just parroting what Judge Engoron had told the media, that it would be before the end of the month. So we just continued to parrot the same comments, which is that it was supposed to take place again before the end of the month. My understanding from what I'm hearing from my sources is that Monday is supposed to be the date. Now, I don't know the reason. Do you know the reasons why that they decided to hold it off?
I think I have a very good theory about why
And what is your theory, Ben?
Justice Engoron actually, he shared it in the open court. He told the parties on January 11th, expect my final verdict to be issued before February 1st. So what happened, Cohen, earlier this week that could have been an intervening event that may have made someone like Justice Engoron, while working on this opinion, say, you know what? I got to spend a few more days now because I got new data, right? That's what I'm looking at on a show like this. And when we're doing our research, because I always want to find, is there any data? Is there new information that Justice Engoron received? The answer is yes. And what happened on Monday? Retired federal judge Barbara Jones, the financial monitor, the independent monitor, who's been in that position for about 14 months. She submitted her report, and it's a 14-month look-back review. And she said, during the pendency of this litigation, setting aside the claims that were in the civil fraud lawsuit, since the lawsuit's been filed, I've found incomplete, inconsistent, and erroneous disclosures. And notably in footnote 6, there was this phantom $48 million loan with this Chicago unit acquisitions, with Trump's claims he owns 100%, made a loan, what's called a springing loan to Donald Trump that basically characterizes Trump as a bad borrower, which he is, even though Trump is also the lender because he owns Chicago unit acquisitions. So this $48 million loan that had previously been disclosed on some of Donald Trump's financials, retired federal judge Barbara Jones determined that didn't exist. That never even took place. So then you have to say, is this some unlawful debt parking scheme where Donald Trump got debt forgiven based on some of the lawsuits that he may have filed against Deutsche Bank and Fortress and others in Chicago, claimed that he was parking this debt and paying it off, but that actually never happened because he didn't want to pay taxes because it would otherwise be treated as income. So there's all these issues right now. And one of the things that New York Attorney General Letitia James requested is an ongoing monitorship with teeth in addition to the financial disgorgement remedy. So, Cohen, that's what I think that Justice Engoron is thinking about now. Whoa, I've got a lot of new data that I have to factor in.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm willing to accept your theory on this. I think Engoron personally is just being ultra careful, knowing that Donald is going to file an appeal, and just to double and triple check the entire record to ensure that they have proper case law within which to validate the amounts of money that will ultimately be due and owing. I'm not so sure that Tish James's case would cover the Chicago acquisition unit, company. I don't know. I remember that scenario. I'm just trying to figure out how it plays into the New York AG's case. And
I think it plays into it with the continuing monitorship aspect of it, where there's been new fraud that's found when you're
right.
dissolving this entity, when you are dealing with all of the remedies that Justice Engoron's going to issue. If you have a continuing monitor, because one of the things New York Attorney General Letitia James is requesting is that there be a monitor permanently attached to the Trump organization through dissolution proceedings and over
Right.
the next number of years where assets are going to have to be sold. And I think that will probably be somebody like retired federal judge Barbara Jones. So the question becomes where a monitor whose job isn't to adjudicate, it's to monitor and prepare reports. When they find fraud while they're doing their monitorship,
Yep.
what kind of powers do they then have to take action? And I think that will be addressed in Judge Engoron's order or Justice Engoron's order, regardless of if that was in this letter. But the letter gives credence to this ongoing injunctive relief that Donald Trump desperately wants to avoid. You see that letter that was sent by Trump's lawyer, Cliff Robert, in response to the letter by Judge Barbara Jones, where Trump's lawyer basically said, oh, this is just Judge Barbara Jones wanting an ongoing job. She's already gotten paid $2.6 million and she's just being greedy. So Trump is terrified at the prospect of someone like retired
So
Judge
let
Barbara
me say
Jones
this,
staying
because
on.
I had some dealings with Barbara Jones when my computer, my cell phones were all seized by the FBI in 2018. Barbara Jones was actually the monitor in order to deal with which ones were privileged, which ones were not. And I got to tell you, there's many things that you could say about Barbara Jones. They would have to be things like she is insanely professional. She is literally by the book. I mean, there is no derivation off of her methodology. She's been doing this a long time. She is incredibly respected in the legal community, and the fact that Cliff Robert, Haba, Chris Kais, or any of the other mental midgets would dare to question her integrity, that she is sticking on because she made over, I think it was either 2.6 or 2.9. Here's something that's real interesting too. They just released the FEC filings for
We're
Trump's
getting into
super
that,
PAC.
Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that Cliff Robert, who is basically a legitimately low-level civil litigation attorney out in Uniondale, Long Island, right? That this ass clown is got like $4.8 million in legal fees, the most out of, I think he got the most out of anyone. I mean, and Alina Habba was like 2.9 or something like that, 2.8.
Melania had 361,000 or 371,000 for her stylist, over 100,000 for hair and makeup. I want to go into that FEC report
Could you
in
imagine,
just a
though, that
moment.
you are one of these MAGA morons, the ones I constantly refer to as the idiot with the 4 teeth and 3 brain cells, that you are paying for Melania's hair extensions, that you're paying for Melania's, clothing? I mean, talk about a grift. I mean, man, oh man, the best maybe in U.S. history.
$1.7 million for Donald Trump's private jet flights, $371,000 for Melania's stylist, $100,000 for her hair and makeup, $155,000 for Walty Nauta Donald Trump's co-defendant, over $50 million for legal bills, including from Alina Habba, Cliff Robert, and others, in cases like cases against Donald Trump for rape and sexual assault and defamation, and cases where Donald Trump has lost verdicts in the amount of $83.3 million. Oh, and by the way,
88.6.
I think it was 80, wasn't it $83.3 million?
Yes, but you're forgetting about the additional 5.3 million from the first.
Well, in that case, then, if we're talking about some prejudgment interest as well, I'm sure at this point it's over $90 million there as well. And we'll see what Donald Trump.
Well, accuracy matters here on Political Beatdown.
And here's a question that Donald Trump was asked at a press conference yesterday. He was asked, so are you going to pay these verdicts from additional campaign contributions? That's what he was asked during a press conference. You were just hit with these penalties, the reporter called them. And then here's how Donald Trump responds when asked if his campaign is going to cover the verdicts against him. Here, play this clip.
Do you plan to try to use campaign funds or PAC money to try to pay some of the penalties in the New York defamation and the fraud cases?
I don't understand what.
Are you thinking of potentially trying to use campaign money to pay some of those penalties that you might incur?
What penalties?
In the New York fraud case and the defamation case.
I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, that's been proven as far as I'm concerned. And actually, we won in the Court of Appeals. You probably saw that. That case has been largely won in the Court of Appeals. That was a political case coordinated with the White House by the Attorney General, I assume is what you're talking about. And we won that case largely in the Court of Appeals.
In parallel also to the defamation case, the additional.
That's a ridiculous case. That case is
accordion hands. Did you see that? Like, very alarming for so many reasons when you watch that. And if it wasn't someone who's causing so much destruction, Michael Cohen, like, I may feel a little bad, but certainly not when it comes to Donald Trump, because he's really out of it. I mean, he's really cognitively impaired and a liar, and it's all combined into this MAGA mush. What do you make of that clip?
What's there to make? The expression, how do you know Donald Trump is lying? And it's because his lips are moving. And look, the accordion hands, that's just a telltale, right? That's like if you were a poker player, that would be his tell. Accordion hands goes because it's all about deflection. Donald does not know how to tell the truth. He is always trying to come up with some sort of a way to make sure that he looks like he is the victim. He's always the victim. I mean, he's never taken accountability for basically anything. And it's all, again, it's all about deflection. And that's what the accordion hands are all about. But he
I'd like to see President.
But you notice he lies with impunity, right? You don't even have to be somebody who follows politics on a daily basis to understand that what he's saying is factually inaccurate. And in many cases, it's not even responsive to the question that's being asked.
I know. And I would like when President Biden goes out and he does these campaign stops to really talk about the kind of whiny victim attitude of MAGA, because, yes, you have Donald Trump who says dictator for a day and all those things. But when you talk about that, that's what Donald Trump's aim and design is. Trump likes that. So I like when President Biden's saying, you know what? This is like a loser. I like when President Biden says, so Donald Trump and these MAGA Republicans, they're just going around the country, breaking things, not coming up with solutions, and then just whining about it like little babies. And you've got Donald Trump telling the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives to kill a bipartisan border deal. Like, who does that? We're trying to solve the problem. You've got Donald Trump telling the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives to try to kill funding to Ukraine to help Vladimir Putin. Who does that? And then you have Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans just whining about it and complaining. Enough of this baby behavior. I want Biden to frame it that Trump is a baby, that Trump is a loser. And he is starting to do that. I'm not sure you saw this new ad that just dropped. One of the things, too, that President Biden puts these ads on Truth Social. He puts them on Donald Trump's social media platform as well as other social media. I'm liking this rapid response by President Biden and his campaign team, and he's really gearing that up a little bit more. Let me show you the new one, Cohen, that just dropped. Play this clip.
Donald Trump is truly confused.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
He didn't just get me confused. He mentioned it over and over and over again. Yeah. He's not what he was in 2016. He has declined. That's a fact.
I mean, we won last time. We won 50 states, right?
This is not Donald Trump of 2016, guys.
What? What is?
If he is off the teleprompter, he can barely keep a cogent thought. I mean, that's just fact.
We are an institute and a powerful death penalty. We will put this on.
I think he's declining.
I stumbled and mumbled purposely.
I do speak in long, complex sentences, and I have a lot of material in each sentence.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread.
Have you noticed? He's a little confused these days.
A person close to Trump actually says that he's rattled by Biden's efforts to get under his skin.
I'm all for that.
I mean, look, it's fantastic because the reason it's getting under Donald's skin is because he knows it's true. That's the whole problem here. If it wasn't true, it would not rattle him. He would just shrug it off and so on. It's exactly why, for example, not just the Republican Party, but Donald himself is rattled by Taylor Swift and by Kelsey. I mean, it's by Travis Kelsey. It is absolutely astounding that he needs to make an issue over who is more revered, who's more popular, who's more loved, him or Taylor Swift. I mean, it's comical. If it wasn't so stupid, it would be comical. It's great for Saturday Night Live. Look, I want to be very clear about something. I happen to think that Taylor Swift is phenomenal. I think she is, as I described her on my Twitter account, she's a kick-ass young woman that has absolutely captured the industry, the music industry. How does that translate or transfer to this political arena? Because she's telling people to make sure what you and I are doing, what our brigaders are doing. We're going to our friends, we're going to our megaphone, and we're saying to people, make sure that you are registered to vote. Now, she happens to be voting and a fan of Joe Biden's, which makes a lot of sense. And that's the part that's bothering Donald Trump. He's like, well, where is my Taylor Swift? Where is the return of my, for example, Kim Kardashian, who's going to come out? And that's why, imagine this. This is the best when they turned around and they said, well, yeah, the Democrats have Taylor Swift, but we have Kid Rock. We have John Voight. And we have Scott Baio. I mean, fan-fucking-tastic. Fantastic. I mean, it's so stupid and comical that now we're fighting in amongst ourselves in terms of political parties as to who has the more famous, social media people. It's common. You're going to compare Taylor Swift to my old friend Scott Baio or to John Voight or Kid Rock? I mean, I'm sure I can't name one Kid Rock song.
And we're not fighting with anybody on these issues. I mean, the MAGA Republicans have worked themselves up with all of their conspiracies, and then they've just dug deeper down this rabbit hole that Taylor Swift is a Democratic psyop, and when George Soros bought her album or bought her intellectual property in 2019. That was the beginning of this overall conspiracy to try to, I don't know, take down Donald Trump and MAGA. And then they have all of these views that then the woke NFL, by the way, like every one of these NFL owners are like Trump donors. The woke NFL is in it with Taylor Swift, and they've created this relationship. It's not a real relationship. It's manufactured as part of this psychological operation to, and it gets so weird. It's so strange. They work themselves up. Fox spends hours and hours talking about this stuff, just like the gas stoves and the green M&Ms, and they need to kind of feed their base this fan fiction, this alternative MAGA reality that exists. But I think that most independent voters, mostly everyone who doesn't identify as a Magadonian, because that's what Trump supporters call themselves now, Magadonians. I think the overwhelming majority of Americans, independents, mainstream Republicans, Democrats, progressives, liberals, people who aren't affiliated with political parties, look at that cult behavior. Even DeSantis supporters I'm seeing looking at this behavior by these Magadonians and saying, like, this is just some really strange behavior. This is
what they say all the time, Ben. Anytime that they don't have an answer for something, it's all part of the George Soros funded, autocracy. I mean, it's funny because they're now claiming that it's the Democrats that are trying to create an autocracy to take away our democracy in order to stifle your constitutional rights. I mean, it's talk about a great pair of deflection here. I mean, a set of balls on them, the way that they think that they could deflect even something like that. Everything is George Soros. And then, of course, you have to go and you got to hit all of the buzzwords, because that's what Trump and MAGA are all about, hitting the buzzwords.
George Soros, DEI, CRT.
Do you know how many times, Ben, that they claimed that I am being paid by George Soros to do this show and my Mea Culpa podcast and to go on television and to speak to the press about Donald Trump? And of course, to lie about him. How many times I have gotten emails and text messages and accusations that I am a Soros-funded spy or against Donald. It is the stupidest thing. First of all, I've never met George Soros. I've never received a single penny from George Soros. If by chance George, as people are watching, more than happy, to get onto that financial bandwagon. If in fact
you're right? You want to be signed up.
Sure. Why not? But I'm not. I mean, it is so stupid, and this ongoing, continuous usage of the word woke when they don't even use it in its proper context. It's astounding. And
at the same time as they spread those deranged conspiracies and talk about psyops of Taylor Swift, you see, it's all projection and confession, Michael Cohen, because here's what they're engaged in. And this is a serious issue we all need to identify. So their top kind of right-wing activists and pollsters are pushing these types of images. This is an AI image. I want you to take a look at it. And those who are watching on YouTube, if you can take a look at this as well. And John Cooper's posting this right here about what this Republican political strategist, and John Cooper isn't the Republican political strategist, but he writes, this photo was posted by a leading Republican political strategist to promote Black voter registration. The only problem is that when you look at this AI photo, is that the man on the right has 3 arms. His third arm makes it look like he's ready to sign that voter registration form, doesn't he? You take a look at the 3 arms right there. There's also a kind of floating voter sticker that's just like floating in midair. Also, that's not actually an American flag right there. If you look at the star right there, you can tell that that's not, but that's what they're spreading, these AI photos on the right wing, to actually try to manipulate public perception that these are African-American Trump voters who are out there registering voters, which, you know, that may be taking place, but if that is, show a real photo, number one, not this AI photo. And they're doing that over and over again. And I want to flag that because we're going to see a lot of that being used by MAGA Republicans right there. And what they want to distract from, though, is that the economy and economic metrics that we traditionally look at to say, is our country in good shape economically? Cohen, things are looking good right now. And I'm not saying good. Look, I don't want to say our prices
is moving in the right direction. Is it perfect? The answer is no. And I would then pose this to each and every one of our brigaders. I would pose it to you, Ben. When was the last time that our economy was perfect in every sense? I can't think of a specific time, but I will tell you right now, we are by far the highest GDP country in the world. And I think Japan is a far second. There's a lot to be proud of right now in America. Lowest unemployment, highest stock market. Can you imagine if Trump was president right now with the stock market hitting the numbers, how he would be on television every day touting his economic success just based off of the number of the stock market? I'd like to see Biden and his team do a little bit more than that. But the interesting thing is because Trump cannot, as president, because he's not president, he cannot do that. What does he end up doing? He's taking credit for the stock market, claiming that this is the leftover, the remaining gas from his administration, as well as, and this was the best of them all, that because Donald Trump is leading in every single poll and because he is beating Joe Biden on all metrics, people believe that he will be the next president of the United States. The stock market is rising. Now, if that doesn't fall into the definition of a narcissistic sociopath, I'm not sure what does.
And by the way, I don't love talking about polls in general this far out, but he's not winning in every poll. If anything, they're mixed or in favor of President Biden. Just take a look at the new Quinnipiac poll that was just released. And by the way, this was on Fox. That's the political polls. Let's show the other one that was on Fox, though, Salty. There it is right there. You have President Biden leading in Quinnipiac 50 to 44%, up from December's 47% to 46%. So on this poll, President Biden, Quinnipiac, showing 50% to 44%. Then when you go into the state polls, like this one right here from F&M poll right there, you've got President Biden winning in Pennsylvania, up 5 to Donald Trump there. So look, I don't like there's a lot of polls out there. And right now, what I prefer to focus on is the actual kind of underlying data that we can get from actual voters in places like New Hampshire and Iowa, where we see these independent voters running away from Donald Trump and MAGA. But nonetheless, the polling data is actually pretty good right now and getting better. The momentum swing right now to President Biden. But let's just talk about the economy for a moment right here. And let me show you this from the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Here's Chairman Powell right here. Let's play this clip if we got it, Salty.
So your first question, how to describe where we are. So I guess I would just say this. Executive summary would be that growth is solid to strong over the course of last year. The labor market, 3.7% unemployment indicates that the labor market is strong. We've had just about 2 years now of unemployment under 4%. That hasn't happened in 50 years. So it's a good labor market. And we've seen inflation come down. We've talked about that. So we've got 6 months of good inflation data and an expectation that there's more to come. So this is a good situation. Let's be honest. This is a good economy.
So would you want to hear someone like that who's talking about the data professional going through it? And by the way, he wasn't sharing these rosy pictures last year. There had to be work to get us here. And his reporting has been honest. He's been talking about what's been going on. So on the one hand, you have Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve like that. Would you rather have that? Or why don't we play this clip right here of how Donald Trump describes, I don't know, let's just say like our military here. Play this clip.
These are not muscle guys here. They're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. They've only got 17 seconds to figure this whole thing out, right? Boom. Okay. Missile launch. Pshing, boom. It's the most
There's not even words to describe. There's no doubt in my what I would pay for somebody to have been with, let's say, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, Mohammed bin Salman, when they saw that bing, bing, zoom, boom, right? Could you imagine what they're thinking right now? I mean, they are, especially Putin, chomping at the bit. Xi Jinping is like, I hope this idiot gets into office so that the day that this idiot shows up and moves in, he's going to take over Taiwan. And that becomes an economic disaster for the United States of America. A lot of people don't realize, the disaster would be if China took over Taiwan economically, but that'd be for another time. The fact that he acts like an idiot, he speaks like a 5-year-old, that is embarrassment for this country. And the fact that there are still people that are supporting him, and you watch to see the level of lunacy that's going on in the people's house at these various different hearings, and now the impeachment of Mayorkas, and then even everything that they're doing is it's so shrouded in childishness and stupidity that it's a ghast. I mean, it's a ghast. It's there's no words for it.
Well, the good breaking news item is it seems that this impeachment sham of Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, seems like that's going to be derailed. Republican Ken Buck, who's going to be retiring soon, came out against impeachment, says he will never vote for the impeachment of Mayorkas. So with a very slim majority, the MAGA Republicans likely don't have the vote. That just happened before we went live. And maybe we talk a little bit more about that in this show as well. But what I really want to hear about, Cohen, is I want to hear some updates with this Manhattan District Attorney criminal case where you're expected to be a witness, because it's now February 1st as of this live recording, which means that the criminal trial in Manhattan seems like it's going to be starting next month. There was a question whether the federal case was going to go in March, the Washington, D.C. federal case before federal judge Tanya Chutkan, but the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals has not made a ruling there yet. So there's no way that federal D.C. trial goes in March. So it definitely seems, in my view, that this Manhattan District Attorney case goes. So I want to ask you what you know about that. Maybe we could break some news here on Political Beatdown that people aren't hearing anywhere else. And I also just want to thank everybody who joined us on that Patreon Zoom meeting that we had on Tuesday. It was fantastic. Patreon.com/Political Beatdown. It was super crowded. We got through as many questions as we could. We had a lot of new members on the Patreon, and so it was a really good time. Thanks for everybody who's joined our Patreon. We don't have outside investors at the Midas Touch Network or here on Political Beatdown. So the way
we're going to be doing it again very, very soon.
Yeah, we should do that again. We should do that again next week. I would absolutely love that. So if you can become a member of Patreon.com/Political Beatdown, it's a fun way to meet Michael and myself and also help grow this independent media platform. We'll be right back, and then I want to talk about the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case and when that's going to start. Let's take a quick break. I'm excited to tell you about Moink, the moo plus the oink. It's Moink. Moink is a meat subscription box company on a mission to fight for the family farm. They're located in rural America, run by an 8th-generation female farmer. Their animals are raised humanely, their employees are paid a living wage, and the quality of their product is better than anything you'll find in a store. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door. Moink farmers farm like our grandparents did, and as a result, Moink meat tastes like it should because the family farm does it better, and the Moink difference is a difference that you can taste. Unlike the supermarket, Moink gives you total control over the quality and source of your food. You choose the meat delivered in every box, like ribeyes to chicken breasts to pork chops to salmon fillets and much more. Plus, you can cancel at any time. Moink is helping save rural America, and I love it, and you will too. Here it is right here. Look, join the Moink movement today. Shark Tank host Kevin O'Leary called Moink's bacon the best bacon he's ever tasted, and Ring Doorbell founder Jamie Siminoff jumped at the chance to invest in Moink. Plus, they guarantee you'll say, oink, oink, I'm just so happy I got moinked. I know I'm happy about it, and I know you will too. So keep America farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/beatdown right now, and listeners of the show will get 2 free steaks in your first box. It's the best steak you'll ever taste, but for a limited time. It's spelled this way: MOINK box.com/beatdown. That's moinkbox.com/beatdown. I went all in on that ad for Moink right there.
You
What do you
sure
think?
did. You know, I got to tell you, last night I actually made myself a hamburger from Moink. I think it even looked better than their own advertiser, and it was fantastic. It's like beef with pork. It's my favorite.
Moink.
Moink is right.
So, Michael Cohen, tell us about the latest updates, whatever it is that you can share. Obviously, I know there's probably things that you can't get into, but the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case against Donald Trump for making these hush money payments and then not accounting for them lawfully. That criminal case was the first criminal case Donald Trump was indicted on. Hasn't been talked about a lot, but it's happening. These are felonies that Donald Trump is being accused of. It's a very document-intensive case. And
so let me just stop for a second, because in fact, just a few moments ago, MSNBC, I think Lisa Bloom was talking about this case. Here's what's going on. As you stated accurately, the Judge Chutkan, the Jack Smith case, is right now there's a stay. And the question becomes, how long will it take for the Court of Appeals within which to put out their ruling? Everybody was hoping that it was going to be expeditiously handled. It's obviously a much bigger issue than that. And so we're still waiting for that. If there is, let's say it comes out today, that would potentially change things. But then knowing Trump would then probably try to file it for, to the Supreme Court, it's highly unlikely that their March 4th date is one that can be reasonably expected. Well, that's okay. That's okay. There are 4 indictments right now currently pending against Donald von Schitzenpants. The next one that was set in stone, and you got to give Alvin Bragg a lot of credit for agreeing to step back, to the Jack Smith Chutkan case. If that case is not ready to go forward, the prosecutors for the District Attorney of New York are prepared and ready to go on March 25th. That was always the scheduled date. And I will tell you that I am already reviewing documents for this case, for the trial, where I am expected to be a key witness in the case. Personally, I would rather not even be involved because of the level of hate and the damage that it causes to an individual, to the family, and so on. I would rather not be involved at all. I don't think that that's going to happen. I do just want to say there's not as many documents as, for example, the Chutkin case. This is a a case that can easily be start and finish in 30 days, and then have a jury make the decision in terms of innocent or guilt. It's predicated on documents and testimony. And, how long this case can go, how many witnesses is maybe, I don't know, maybe a dozen at most. So we're basically looking at a 30-day case. And that will be the very first conviction, in my opinion. It'll be the first conviction against Donald Trump.
So we're talking by end of April, early May.
Early May.
By early May, you believe that Donald Trump will be a convicted felon, correct?
I do.
And then what we'll have to see by early May will the Mar-a-Lago document case go to trial. It's currently set for trial May 20th, but it's before Judge Eileen Cannon. I don't think that date is a serious date at all. Will we finally get updates? And I think we will fairly soon from the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, so that after Donald Trump is a convicted felon in the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case, will this Judge Tanya Chutkin, Washington, D.C. federal criminal case, will that get scheduled sometime around June or July? You have a 2-month trial, probably get a verdict there, then sometime around mid-September. I think that's probably the best case.
Yeah.
Area.
Ben, one of the things that really pisses me off the most is I have people who reach out, to me, educated Manhattaners as well. And they say, oh, I hate this case, the Alvin Bragg case. Okay. Good for you. What do you want me to say about that? Good for you. You care to share why? Well, it's such a stupid case. It's a campaign finance violation. It's ticky-tack. It's first and foremost, as I explained to them, that's what I went away for. So if it's good for me, it should be good for the next guy. It's equal justice under the law. But more importantly, why do people do this? Why are they sort of creating a list of which of the 4 cases is the most egregious against the law, which is number 2, which is number 3, and of course we all know that this Alvin Bragg case would fall in at number 4. Isn't a crime regardless of whether that same criminal committed a potential crime that is significantly more inflammatory under the law than business record violation, campaign finance violation, etc.? Yes, let's all acknowledge that trying to overturn a free and fair election in terms of, or then an insurrection, that these are certainly crimes that are more egregious than campaign finance violation. But nevertheless, the Alvin Bragg case, the campaign finance, the misrepresentation, etc., those are crimes that are regularly handled out of the district attorney's office. It's a crime. So why people are stacking which one is worse than the other, which one should go forward, I don't understand the logic behind them. And these same people have the same sort of crazy responses. Like the other day, this friend of mine, and I'm so angry at her, you can't even imagine. She turns around and she's talking about Alina Habba's allegation against Judge Kaplan and Roberta Kaplan that they had worked together in the 1990s, that they need to be recused, that this whole case needs to be tossed out, et cetera, et cetera. And as we all know, none of that is true. In fact, how do we know that is true? Because Alina Habba apologized and said, you know what, let's forgive, forget, and let's move on. I mean, that's how you know that it's bullshit, but it doesn't matter to these people. They hear it. For whatever reason, they want to go against Joe Biden, and they're willing to listen to the stupidity coming out of MAGA and Hava and Trump and Kais and the rest of them in order to sort of appease themselves or to validate why they should not vote for Joe Biden. I don't get it. I'm so lost by the level of stupidity that these people are demonstrating.
Well, Michael, you have billions of dollars that are being funneled to spread these narratives, to spread this propaganda. And think about it. Like, I'm not trying to like make up for what that person is believing and just let them get away with it, who's kind of sharing with you this nonsense. But as between billions of dollars in propaganda to push these narratives on them, where they're probably very busy, they may be raising a family, they may have a lot going on in their life, but they're being targeted with these lies, right? In a nefarious way to manipulate them. The outcome of being manipulated is the goal by this MAGA propaganda machine. And what we have to realize is that that's the game. Lots of legacy media, they're like, well, we just got to both sides it. And on the one hand, you've got Donald Trump talking about cognitive exams. On the other hand, you've got President Biden, like, leading all of the democracies in the world against Putin and helping the economy. But, you know, politics is just crazy. And then you've got this MAGA billion-dollar machines like, let's manipulate him. Let's lie to him. So here at the Midas Touch Network, what we always try to do is say, look, here's what Alina Habba said in her filing. Here's what the testimony is. Here's what Donald Trump is saying. Here's what the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives are saying. Here's what the bill says. And we treat our audience like they are. We know our audience is smart, so we treat them like they're smart because we know our audience is smart.
Facts. Ben, how often do you and I turn and say the same thing? Facts matter. You know, I actually have dropping tonight on my Mea Culpa podcast. I have George Conway. First of all, it's a funny conversation, but we touch on this and the level of the MAGA stupidity that's out there. It's not that they're, with all due respect, Ben, it's not that they're too busy to know the facts. They don't want to know the facts. They only want to hear what comports to their distorted perception so that they could then run to their next door neighbor, another idiot, right, who believes the same stupidity that they do, and that they can sit around, have a bunch of beers, watch a ball game, or do whatever it is that they do and talk the same language. That way they don't have to be adverse to one another. And what they do is they promote this misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. That's exactly what they're doing. But you are absolutely right. There is a billion-dollar machine out there on behalf of Trump, whether it's through his untruth social tweet post, whether it's X, Twitter, or whether it's Threads. There are these bots that are paid for by these MAGA Republicans that completely try to drown out any and all semblance of truth and fill our heads or fill their heads with the continued conversation or the messaging that Trump and MAGA want.
Right. I mean, setting aside the bots, you MAGA Republicans create this George Soros, boogeyman. He goes, you have relationships with George Soros because, well, look who's now running Twitter and changed the name to X. It's Elon Musk. Look who runs Fox, the Murdochs. Look who runs Sinclair. Look who's actually controlling who's getting these messages out. But here is the fundamental truth, Michael Cohen. And here's what we need to keep on talking about. We need to make this contrast very clear by just showing the tape. So on the one hand, let me show you this. This is what Donald Trump talks about. I think this was a speech he gave in Vegas, but this is part of his stump speech. This is who Donald Trump is. This is what he's talking to the American people about, his cognitive exams. Just watch this. So I want to play this clip of Donald Trump, and then I want to show you what President Biden just did. But first, let me show you this clip of Donald Trump. Play the clip.
I said, is it tough? He said, yeah, it's a tough test. The first couple of questions are easy, like they'll have a lion, a giraffe, a whale, and a shark. And they'll say, which one's the lion, okay? And that's all the press covered, the first question. They didn't cover the last question. Multiply 4,733. Multiply times 7, divide, without paper and pencil, by the way, divide it by 4, add up another 37 and a half, 0.5. I remember that. And what's your number? How many people in this room could do it? Not too many. Or they give you 6 names in a row. I took a lot of heat on this. They give you 6 names in a row at the beginning. Sir, I'm going to give you 6 names. Good. They look at them. A chair, a hat, a badge, a necklace, and they vote. Those things. We're going to give you 6 things. And I say, good, what's going on? Can you rename them? So I name them. Then they go back, and if you can do it in order, that's even better. I do them in order, perfect. Then they come back to you 30 minutes later at the end, last question. They say, what were those 6 things? That there aren't too many people, and they laughed, everyone said, oh, that's so easy. There's only about 2% of this room can do it, but I did it. I did it very easily, but I got mocked. They said, oh, that's so easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Go home and try doing it, okay? Go home.
So that's Donald Trump, the leader of the modern day Republican Party, which is MAGA. Now, contrast that to President Biden. Now, this is a clip that when I watched it had me in tears. So I'll just give you this disclaimer. But here's President Biden calling up the family of Army Specialist Kennedy Sanders, who was killed in the terrorist drone strike overseas. Watch how President Biden talks to the family, posthumously awards Specialist Kennedy Sanders the rank of sergeant. Watch this and compare it to what you just saw. It was Donald Trump, leader of the MAGA Republican Party. Here's President Biden, leader in the pro-democracy movement here in the United States of America. Play this clip.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Sean, I wish I didn't have to make this call. I know, everybody, I know there's nothing anybody can say or do to ease the pain. I've been there.
Yes, sir, we understand.
I just want you to know that you're in my prayers, in my heart. I know you don't want the press at the return of the body, but with your permission, I'd like to be there with you. Is that okay?
We would love for you to be there.
Well, and by the way, we're promoting her posthumously to sergeant.
Oh, wow. That is the best news I've heard today. Thank you so much. You don't know how much that means to us.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it means a lot to me. My son spent a year in Iraq, and so I lost him. And 1% of all these kids are the ones that really take care of 99% of us. Look, I really do know. I got one of those phone calls out of the blue and tell me my wife and daughter were dead when a tractor trailer hit them when I was a young senator, and then my son Bo, he's living near a burn pit in Baghdad. He got down with stage 4 glioblastoma, brain tumor, and lost him too. But
yes, sir. We know that you can definitely feel our pain.
Well, unfortunately, I do. But I can tell you one other thing. You won't believe it now. And I hope it won't be angry when I say it. The day will come. The day will come when you walk by a park you used to play Kennedy played in, or you open a closet and you smell the fragrance of her clothing or something like that. And you'll smile before you cry. That's when you know you're going to make it. It takes a hell of a long time to get there. But I promise you'll get there. I know that is no consolation now. And from what I understand, you're a close family, and her twin brother also. I just, anyway, I wish there was something really intelligent I could say to change everything.
I just thank you so much for your words of comfort, especially from a parent who's experienced it. And, if you've made it through, I know that, we can make it through as well. So I just appreciate your words.
Have you ever seen more of a contrast?
I mean, if you didn't cry from that or get massive goosebumps, then there's something wrong. But I can assure you that Donald didn't. I can assure you his MAGA supporters didn't. They don't care. Donald Trump does not care about anyone. In fact, if you get killed, what does he call you? Calls you a loser. Just terrible. I mean, talk about a man with empathy. How do you compare the two men to one another? I mean, the poor mom and dad of all of these fallen soldiers who gave their lives for our protection, for the Constitution, for American democracy. And then you have a fucking loser, an absolute bullshit artist, con man, dirtbag, whose sole goal is to take power in this country for himself, to protect himself from these 4 criminal, maybe possibly even 5 criminal matters. Just, I don't know how he even gets one single vote. But then again, a lot of things I don't understand.
Yeah, no, that clip is.
And, to all of these people, Ben, who are supporting Donald day in and day out, like even my friend, this young lady in the city who wants to try to rationalize why Alina Habba is a genius, or why this case with Alvin Bragg shouldn't go forward, or why they believe that Donald would bring stability to the world, that there was no wars that was going, which again, also just not true. To all of these MAGA supporters that keep funding his bad behavior, his illegalities, there you go. 2 fingers salute to you. Let me move over so I get a good solid photo there. Fuck you all. You are destroying America's democracy. You are destroying this great experiment that keeps us moving forward as the greatest nation on the planet. And you know what? No matter what you fucking idiots decide to do, it doesn't make a difference. There will be a blue wave. And again, I call on all our brigaders to make sure that this comes to fruition. But there will be a blue wave like history that no Republican history has ever seen before. This is going to be an absolute beatdown over the Republican Party by the Democratic Party in 2024, not just to continue with the House, not just to continue and control the Senate, but I do believe that we will also take back the House of Representatives.
Look, and I just think, by and large, we can't get 100% of Americans. We probably can't get 80%, but more than 65 to 70%, I think, of Americans want normalcy. I think they see the difference right here. I think we can't be intimidated by this very, very, very loud, silent minority of people. And we have to recognize that most of America does crave normalcy. Most of America isn't like this. And let me just show you this clip right here of Marjorie Taylor Greene as she's talking about trying to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. And there's a breaking news update too that I want to talk about in 1 second before we sign off. But first, let me show you this clip right here of this was Marjorie Taylor Greene and what appears to be a failed bid to try to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, which would be like the first impeachment of a cabinet official since the Civil War, while MAGA Republicans are trying to prevent Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, from actually negotiating a bipartisan border deal with all of the terms that Republicans claimed that they wanted, because Trump wants to whine about it during his campaign. Let's play this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This historical evidence is overwhelming that the founding fathers intended impeachment to be used to deal with the commission of indictable crimes and the abuse of power, corruption, and injury to the nation caused by public officials, among others.
See that spelling bee movie? Indictable.
Yes.
Indictable. But I'll tell you what is indictable, Michael Cohen. We have major breaking news right now via the New York Times. Allen Weisselberg, former chief financial officer of the Trump Organization, is in negotiations to plead guilty to perjury for lying while on the witness stand in the New York State Attorney General's civil fraud trial, and also during an interview with that office. Let me repeat the breaking news one more time, that Allen Weisselberg, former chief financial officer at the Trump Organization, is in negotiations to plead guilty to perjury. Remember, he previously pled guilty to tax fraud. He was sent to Rikers Island, now agreeing to plead guilty to perjury for lying while on the witness stand in the New York State Attorney General's civil fraud trial.
And what do you think that he was lying about? Or better than that, who do you think that he was lying about?
Well, why don't you and I take that discussion to the after show right now? Patreon.com/political beatdown. That's what we will discuss right now. We'll also do a hot take on it, of course, at the Midas Touch.
Let me just also please ask each and every one of you, the blue background icon on the Midas Touch Network RSS feed, my Mea Culpa podcast. It is this one drops tonight with George Conway. It is hysterical. At the same time, it is frightening. Thank you guys, especially, all of my supporters there, but thanks to Midas Network for, helping me to rebuild the RSS feed from the old one, which was the red one, which we don't care about, the blue background icon. So thank you. And I hope everybody gets a chance. If you are going to listen, smash the blue heart just so that I know you're following with us right now.
And make sure everybody subscribes to that podcast channel, the Blue Mea Culpa. Make sure you're it takes you 2 minutes less. It'll take you 20 seconds to do it. Just search on your podcast Mea Culpa and subscribe to the blue one. All right. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Cohen and I will give you our immediate reaction to this breaking news that Allen Weisselberg in negotiations to plead guilty yet again, and we will do a hot take on that as well here on the Midas Touch Network. Hit subscribe on our way to 3 million subscribers. Thank you so much, Beatdown Brigaders. We love you. We appreciate you. We are so honored and grateful to be a part of this community that you all created. We'll see you next time, Beatdown Brigaders. Shout out to the Midas Mighty.